hello, and welcome to the show. It's me, JP. It's time for John Park's workshop. We have arrived. It is Thursday, and I'm super excited about today's show. It's going to be a bit of a deep dive into some audio cassette tape silliness. And hold on, let me pause the little preview there so I don't see an echo of myself. Hey, stop that, me. There we go. So we're going to dive into some cassette stuff. In honor of that, I wore my cool Amulets t-shirt. Amulets is a music artist who does a lot of cool cassette manipulation. Go look him up. What else to say? Thanks for stopping by. If you're over in the YouTube chat, hello. I see you over there, as well as our Discord. And I bring up our Discord because if you are over on Twitch or one of the other platforms, Facebook, you don't know where the people are, where the chat is. It's happening over on our Discord. It's just to consolidate things, and so that way I don't have 7 chat windows going at once. Hi, everyone. Hi, C. Grover. So I apologize in advance, C. Grover. This episode is going to drive you bonkers with all of the bad things I'm going to do to cassette tapes. As an audio engineer type of person, it'll make you shudder probably. But all in the name of good fun and science, I think. So what else have we got going on? I'm excited to have somewhat permanently posted my Sony CRT over there with the video shank nub running the clock, running the Vaporwave clock. I don't know if I'll keep that forever. It's a bit of real estate, and also sometimes it's a pain to actually have a clock in your video frame if you want to edit stuff, but I don't know. It's fun, it's cool looking. What else is happening? So we have a jobs board. You may have heard of it. It's at jobs.adafruit.com. And if you head on over there, you can find people looking for people to hire. There's contract, freelance, full-time, internship, part-time, remote, and volunteer work. All of those are valid things to post. It's free to post. You don't need anything other than an email address and an account with Adafruit. You submit, and Lady Ada and Phil take a look and post all the good stuff. So it's vetted, and these are all positions that people are looking to hire for. And you can also click up here in the Available for Hire section. I think I'm not logged in right now. When you're logged in, you can see people's resumes and CVs and other important information about them. So that's at jobs.adafruit.com. Excuse me, a little something in my throat. I'm going to grab a sip of water. Hi, Johnny Bergdahl, over in the YouTube chat. Good evening to you. Let's see, what else is going on? Did you know on Tuesdays I've got this show, which is JP's Product Pick of the Week, and on it I like to take a product, slice its price in half, not always, but usually 50% off, show you how it works, do some demos, and let you enjoy it for 15 minutes or so. Throw it in your cart, buy it, no coupon code necessary. You can get up to 10 of them. And I like to do little demos that I then excerpt down to 1 minute. So here was this week's product pick. It's that Joy Featherwing that I love so dearly. And here is my little recap. It is the Joy Featherwing. This is a PSP style analog joystick. So it's a potentiometer that goes from 0 to 1023, 0 to 1023 for X and Y axis. And it also has the 4 A, B, X, Y buttons. It also has a select button at the top. This is the original seesaw board, a little seesaw chip that is taking care of finding out what's going on the board, in this case, collecting the analog input and those 5 button presses, and then sending all that info over I2C. What I decided to do is make a little game console using the Featherwing, and you can see there, it's just connected over I2C. Thumbstick there to rotate the little ship. And then I can use the B button to thrust, get away, and then I can do the old Death Blossom and fire off, I think, a maximum of 5 shots. It is the Joy Featherwing. That's right, it sure is. How many of you went and got some? I know there's some cool projects that people have done out there, some good things to go and check out. I really am interested. I mentioned it, the one where someone put 2 of them side by side. One flipped like this, and it's exactly the the Nintendo Switch layout with those 2 little Switch controllers that slide off the sides, the Joy-Cons. Hey, Joy Featherwing, Joy-Con. Kind of cool. And in fact, the Ruiz brothers just did a neat little project using one of our displays and building a 3D printed switch style ratio controller. So check it out. What else is going on? Hey, this is a good time to do something I like to do each week. It is the CircuitPython parsec. All right, I'm back. I disappeared there for a second. So, for the CircuitPython parsec today, let's try that again. For the CircuitPython parsec today, I want to show how you can use a random integer and a random float with our random library to play some simple tones that equate a sort of bleepy bloopy, the computer is thinking type of sound. This is in my series of computers are thinking projects. So look how simple this code is. First of all, let's do an audio demo. I've got it hooked up and running. I'm just going to enable the speaker. All right, that's probably enough of that. I'll pause that. And so the way we're getting those cool little bleepy sounds is importing the board library and simple I/O. Simple I/O is going to be used with this simple I/O tone, which just requires a frequency and a duration. So you'll notice I don't even need to import time. And then I'm importing two things from the random library. Rand range, which we use to set a random range of integers, and uniform, which is used to give us a uniform distribution from 0 to 1 of a float or a decimal number. All I do in my main loop, I set the frequency to be a random range. In this case, I'm using anywhere from 40 hertz to about 1200 hertz. And then the duration is anywhere from 0.2 seconds to 0.125 seconds. Then every time the simple I/O tone is called, it plays over the pin A0, analog pin, whatever that frequency and duration are, and then it repeats that over and over again. So play that again. And you can see here, if I raise the pitch, let's say, we'll get some higher. Now it's going a little bit higher. I can also set some longer durations, let's say half-second ones. So now it's hanging out for half a second on some of those tones. And that is how you can use random range and uniform to play some really simple tones using the simple I/O tone library and make your computer think. And that is your CircuitPython parsec. All right, so now I think it's a good time to get into some of the aforementioned cassette tape shenanigans. So first of all, what I want to do is a bit of a gear report on an item, and this is called the human-controlled tape transport. The reason I'm bringing this up is it's a really fundamental cassette playback device because all it has is the read head of a cassette, the amplifier part of the circuit, and then a manual control to turn the little take-up reel on a cassette tape. So I'm going to head over to my workbench and let me describe this. There's a lot of stuff you're seeing there. The item in the center that's silver looks like it's in a stomp box, sort of. This is the human-controlled tape transport right here. And I'll head over there and make it play, but essentially I'm going to feed a cassette into it, and you can use a regular cassette or a specially prepared cassette tape loop. I'll show you a bit with both of them. And then as you turn, you're simply moving the tape across the head in an incredibly uneven manner. And you know, one of the keys with a cassette playback to sound good is it has to be locked into a speed that is consistent, otherwise you get variations in frequency. We're going to get lots of those because this is a manual tape transport. So let me head over there and we'll take a look at, where's the right camera? There it is. And that's the one I'm looking for. All right, let's head over there. Okay, so what I'll do first is take a cassette, and I will start with, how about this one right here? Okay, so this is a mix cassette my wife made years and years ago, and I'm feeding it into the tape transport, and now the tape itself is touching the reed head that's back here. I don't know if you can see that. There's not a lot of light in there, but you see that silver thing? Actually, let me zoom in. You might be able to. All right, so there you can see, there's the little tape head, and this knob here is connected to a little shaft with a sort of rubber end, a little vinyl bolt protector kind of end. That is going to go into the take-up reel here, and then I'll be able to rotate the cassette to drag it across that take-up. So let me zoom out again a little bit. Okay, so I'll feed this in, and then I have this running into my little blue box mixer here, so we should hear it. Oh, going the wrong way. So you can almost hear a little drum line there and some garbled lyrics and things happening. And actually, I'm going to check the chat. Let me know. I can pull it up on here. Let me know if you can't hear at all the samples that I'm playing over here, the examples that I'm playing, because I want to make sure you can hear those. So let me open up Discord on my phone here so I can see any chat, and that would be really helpful if you can let me know. Let's see. Where is our server? There you are. There's live broadcast chat. Okay. So I'll keep an eye on that. So let me know. So I'm going to bump up the gain on this a little bit and do that again. Sounds good there. Okay, great. Okay, so you can, of course, add effects to that and stuff. These sound much better with some delays and echoes and bit crushers and things like that attached to them. But that thing is really cool. And in fact, I wanted to take a second. This one is the version 1 of this that came out a number of years ago, and they've moved on to a version 2. I just wanted to show that since I'm talking about it here. It is by Landscape FM. You can go to landscapefm.com, and the new version is this. You can see it's got a PCB, fiberglass PCB as the enclosure now, and there are a bunch of improvements and add-ons, but the main improvement is that there are now 2 shafts going into both sides, so you can go in both directions. Because the thing with a normal cassette is going backwards on just one of the take-ups is just going to create a bunch of slack and cause problems for you. So you can't scratch that one with a normal cassette. But anyway, this is the new one. You can see there it's got a couple knobs on it. It also has like some capacitive touch things for kill switch and some other functionalities, which is pretty cool. If we head back over here, I'll show you a little tape loop I made, which allows me to go forward and backwards. So this is your typical cassette. I'll take the one out of here. Actually, this is a good one as an example. So you can see with a typical cassette, if I go the wrong way, I'll grab a pencil here, it's just going to create slack. So you can see that little slack happening there. So you can only go in the one direction, and it pulls the tape across from the other reel. So if instead you take apart a cassette, you can make a short little looping section. So you can see there, I've got this little tape loop I made just by pulling apart a blank cassette, taking all of that off. So there's the main amount of tape there. And then you can make a little 3-4 second loop here, depending on the playback speed. The trick with these is, one, you've got to splice the tape, so you have to use some tape splicing tape or some decent Scotch tape if that's what you have. I've never tried Kapton tape. That might work pretty well too. It's pretty sticky and quite flexible and thin. And the other trick with these is the amount of tension. So when a tape head presses against the tape, it pushes it into this little felt doodad here, official term. You need to make enough contact there, so this can't be stretched so tight that this doesn't depress in. It also can't be so loose that the take-up reel there, which is just a little piece of plastic like this. Let me zoom in a little closer and focus better on these things. So that on its own is quite slippery, not a lot of friction there. So you can see on the one I made here, I added a little sort of tire around it. I super glued a rubber band, a thick rubber band, which gave me some grip on the tape, and it also increased the diameter of that a little bit, which I needed. So now you can see, if you look at the tape there, either direction I go, it drags across, which means if you tape something on there, ideally you'll tape something like a drone sound on there to get sort of consistent sound you can pitch and go get variations in both directions without it sounding super weird like voices or drums, but those are fine too. I have put sort of a droning sound on here that I recorded. It has gaps in it, which is a problem. You actually don't want gaps in it because you can hit dead spots, but let's get this going here. And I just want to figure out why this is so quiet. Why are you so quiet? Did I lower my main output volume? Yeah, the gain is way low. So you can see I have these big gaps, which is a bad idea. One thing too, it's a little better, is to mention there's a bit of slack in here, and depending on how well your tape is seated, if it's a little high or a little low as it comes across the head there, you can get a mix-up of tracks. So a typical cassette has 2 tracks going. Let's see, does this work right now? Yeah. A typical cassette has stereo pair going one direction and a stereo pair going the other direction. So it's actually 4 tracks on a tape. When you flip the cassette over, you're playing in forward on the other side. It's actually like this. So I actually have a little 4-track here, 4-track cassette recorder that I got back in the 90s. This treats all 4 tracks as individual tracks. So it's like having a 4-track recording setup without having a big reel-to-reel expensive thing. These were pretty cheap. So if we take, for example, what's a good cassette for this? Is there one in here right now? Okay, this I think has my drone on it on one side and some spoken word stuff on the other. Let's see if we can hear that. What am I doing? Let me put this in properly. Got distracted here. I just wanted to bring up my Discord again to see if you can hear anything. Yeah, Thin Man says, sounds good here. So maybe a stepper motor down the road, right? If you want to turn this back into machine controlled, add some sort of motor to it. So here on this one, if I play... So that's the side B stuff, or the flip side stuff playing, because I've asked tracks 3 and 4 to play. If I go... and turn the first two tracks on, that's something I recorded in the other direction. So kind of cool that you can grab those other tracks, but it's just to explain that that thin little piece of tape has these four sort of sections that are just where it writes to a stereo pair and a stereo pair going in two opposing directions. So that's kind of a gear report right there, just with this cool little human-controlled tape transport. I bought that used off of someone on an online forum. Thank you so much for that. Super cool. What I want to do now is take this into the realm of a project I want to work on. And so the project I want to work on is a variable speed cassette playback using a combination of either manual control, like a potentiometer, microcontroller control, so using maybe a digital potentiometer, and then feeding that microcontroller either MIDI or control voltage from a hardware synthesizer, so that you can maybe make a little droning loop or something like that, or it could be a full cassette's worth of one pitch, let's say a C, and then depending on your playback speeds, you can pitch it into different, not quite in tune, but maybe, depending on how lucky you get, frequencies, which is kind of cool. This is a popular project. You'll see it out there. There's some products made just to do this, and then there's a lot of hacks. One piece of gear that's really popular for this is this Byron Statics, I think that's its name, Byron Statics cassette. This is like $15 online. They're new, they're newly made, and they're kind of cool. This has a USB mini for power or two AA's, and it has a radio, AM/FM radio built onto it, and then it has a speaker built in, a microphone so you can record right to it, as well as the playback, forward, reverse, stop, and the record there. You can also record directly from the radio, internal radio, onto the tape. So it's got a bunch of features, which is pretty cool. Very cheap, and not a bad place to start with some hacks because it's so cheap. There are cassette players that are really great for this as far as getting in there really quickly and easily, and that's because there are cassette players that have variable speed playback already built into them. And these kind of fall into two categories, really. One is dictation machines, and it could be cassette sized, could be larger size, but dictation cassettes will have variable speed just so that someone who is transcribing it can slow it down or speed it up after someone has recorded notes into it. And then there are also ones that are made for just adjusting the pitch of music that you're practicing to. I don't know of any examples other than this one, which is the Ibanez Rock and Play stereo cassette player for guitar, RP200, and I think they had another model of this, and maybe some other brands did, but Ibanez, who makes guitars and amps and things, they made this, and it's a pretty cool gadget in its own right. I think I've shown it on the show a couple years ago when I got it at a thrift store for, I think, $5 or something like that. But this has, if you can see here, a tape speed control switch. Lower that a little bit. So this switches between normal and half speed, and then you have this pitch control, which is a potentiometer that will give you more fine-tuned changes. So if let's say your band is playing it in a certain key, you might be able to practice to it in that key, even if the original wasn't written in that key. And then it also has two guitar or line inputs, so you can, or instrument inputs, so you can plug in a guitar and a bass or something like that, hear them in your headphones along with the tape, mix between those. It's got a little 3-channel mixer there. And it even has 2 headphone outs, so 2 people can be using it. They thought of everything. And it also has some effects on the inputs, so you can add a chorus or a chorus and a distortion, which is pretty wild. So what I want to do is I'll put in my little droning cassette. Is that the one I want? No, I want this one here. Move this out of the way a little bit. And zoom out. So this is just on battery power right now. So I'll take that, and I pulled the door off just to make it easier to see what's going on. And I'm gonna take one of the headphone outs and go into my little mixer there. So set it like this. Okay, so this is a little droning synth thing I recorded. So you can see here, this is just using this pitch control. And you can see there, if we aren't sliding between those pitches, and instead if we could jump there, I was just trying to jump really quickly between some settings, you could play it like sort of Mellotron, which is an old keyboard that had essentially a tape loop per key. So getting rid of that sort of sliding thing, that would be the idea behind using something like a digital potentiometer, where you could just go directly to a different resistance level for the speed controller on the motor and get it to play back the way you want it to without all that slide. This one does have that full half speed playback, so I'll go back to normal. So that's half speed. All right, so that's the idea. That's what we want to try to replicate. Instead of, this is just a lucky find, they don't really make these anymore. I had to replace the main belt in it. It had just turned to goo, which is kind of the problem. If you want to get used Walkman, generic term I'll use it as, on eBay or other places, it's not a bad idea to look for ones that say they are tested and works, because if not, you will have a job ahead of you of getting inside. Sometimes it's a pain to get where you need to get. Sometimes you have to take a lot of things apart to get a new belt on there. You also have to buy a pack of cassette belts. You don't want to try to use hair bands or rubber bands or anything. You got to kind of get the right stuff. Rubber bands will, again, just kind of give you trouble and stretch and turn into goo again. So rather than that, the idea is start from this one. Even though this one wasn't built to do any of the speed control, it is possible to add different resistance levels to the DC motor to get some primitive control. So let's first of all just plug this one in and check out how it sounds. So I guess I'll steal... Is that the one I want? Oh, this red one. Okay. I'll steal this one here, and I'm going to plug that into phones. So let's just test this one out. We can put our same... Actually, let's take this little tape loop I made so you can hear it better, what it actually does. We'll see how well that works. Okay, some players won't like a tape loop. I'm going to flip it over. Sometimes that fixes it. It senses a problem with the tension and it stops so it doesn't eat your tape. Let's try it this way. Okay, yeah, it's not. This one's not going to like this loop. It might be possible to overcome that, but I'll use a regular cassette, which is this one here. Just adjust the amount of gain and volume I'm giving it in the first place. Okay. So there it is in normal operation. We'll go ahead and rewind. Okay, good. So now let's take it apart and have a look. And I just got inside of here a little bit earlier to take a look and see if I could find, based on some projects I looked up online, this one's really popular. You'll see people selling them on Etsy, already modified. You'll see some nice close-up photos of mods people have done already, and I'll show you a few of those in a second. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull out my batteries first, and then there's just 4 screws on here and a little pair of latches to overcome with a little spudger or guitar pick kind of thing. So I've only put 2 of these screws back in, so I'll go ahead and take those out, and let me go ahead and zoom in here. Should do. Yeah, C. Grover said in the chat, sometimes both hubs need to turn, otherwise it thinks it's at the end of the tape. That's a good point. And I have not done much cassette loop building. Some people I know do it with a pair of rollers or take-up hubs still in there, whatever their name is. I think that may help. All right, so to get this apart, it kind of hinges off of here a little bit, but there is a pair of clips to defeat down at the bottom here. So I'm just going to take this little guy and click past one, click past the other. Now it's loose enough to lift up and over the little volume knob there that it was caught on. All right, so now that we're inside, let me see, can I get any closer? There we go, that's about as close as I can get. We can put some batteries back in it. And yeah, one of the wild things about this is such a coming together of modern and ancient, where you've got a USB micro in here for power, and I'm assuming some little voltage regulator here to convert the 5 volts down to 3 that it runs off of. And so just looking at one of the guides I saw online, I'll let this play. I might actually go forward to some of the voice playback. That'll be easier to hear it in. So let me fast forward this a couple minutes. I just recorded a couple minutes of that drone on there. So this will be a spoken word audio book kind of thing. A little further. This is not the fast forward and rewind are not super fast on that compared to my little Tascam here.
Some more. Fact is, Amos said, everything's changing. Used to be, in the old days, the media image roughly corresponded to reality. But now it's all reversed. The media image is
so there's a ground here and a existing resistor on the motor.
Excitement. So now day-to-day life is false and the media image is true. Sometimes I look around my living room, and the most real thing in the room is the television. It's bright and vivid. The rest of my life looks drab.
There we go. Oh, sorry, my head was in the way.
I turn the damn thing off. That does it every time. Get my life back.
Casey continued to pet the dog. She saw headlights in the darkening night,
swinging around the corner
and come up the street toward them. She got to her feet, walked to the curb.
Well,
okay, so that is...
Good night, Amos, she said.
Sort of the basic foundation of figuring out, okay, where are we going to go in and connect up to be able to adjust this motor control. You could do it by following the motor and seeing where it's plugged in. I didn't have to. Someone had done this exact one already, so I didn't need to explore. But you could also approach it kind of like circuit bending, where you find a ground and then just start prodding around, bypassing resistors or changing the resistance value to see what happens. So that's a start. What I think I'm going to use to do it is our little linear digital potentiometer. And in fact, this is a good time to show you, this was a project that Liz showed me that she found online. And it is this one from Guy DuPont. You can see, it looks a little familiar. And what he did is really neat. Grabbed the voltage off of the USB, so I think it's still powering the cassette player from USB power and powering maybe even data to the little cutie pie in here, which is great. And there's that Dallas Semiconductor 3502 I2C potentiometer, so that is connected up to those points, ground, and then the two, there's the wiper, ground, and voltage, I'm presuming. And then digitally changing that position of that wiper to adjust the motor speed. So that, you can check that out just on Twitter, Guy DuPont, GVY_DVPONT, has some info about that. If you also look around, I mentioned amulets. This is amulets. cassette-music.com, and there's a lot of great info about cassette tape manipulation, making your own tape loops, and so on. And I saw here, this is someone on Etsy who's just taken these and adding a little manual speed controller or control voltage input, which is pretty cool. Dual CV and line-ins, a bunch of options you can get on those that are built into it. And here's an example of someone making a full Eurorack module based on a cassette transport that's been built into this little panel. It has control voltage and gate, I think, in. It has a speed controller on the front of it and a couple other things. So if you Google around, there's a lot of really neat projects that are out there using cassette players as well as that particular inexpensive one, which is pretty cool. So let's see what else. I think the plan with this will be, next steps will be, I'm going to take my, where did I put it? Take my little digital potentiometer and a CircuitPy, which work great together, and start coding that to be able to just do some sweeps back and forth to change the timing or change the playback of the motor speed. And then look at doing some MIDI input. So it'd be kind of cool to send MIDI notes to the CircuitPy over USB, which it then converts to different values for that potentiometer so that it plays back at different speeds. And then I think it's actually easier to set up something like MIDI than it would be the control voltage, because a control voltage coming off of something like Eurorack can be anywhere from negative to positive 10 volts. So there's a little bit more circuitry needed to bring that in and then convert that to resistance values of the digital potentiometer, but it's totally doable. I'm not sure about gates, because often a gate impulse could be used. You could use that maybe to just do a full stop or some kind of a muting of the player, so it might be neat to have both gate and control voltage in there. So let's see. Any questions or thoughts over in the chat, let me know. People are referencing the Beatles with the cassette playback and backward masking and all that, for sure. And let's see, I also want to mention I will be out next week, returning the following week, so I wanted to give you a preview of this. Lamore and Liz and I just talked about this yesterday, so the fact that that little teal-colored cassette came in less than 24 hours is kind of amazing, kind of scary. But obviously I've got a lot of other tape stuff to goof around with, but I'm looking forward to trying to modify that one in specific, because it's nice to be able to recommend something, do a project guide where people can actually go and get this thing, which may have a bunch of different names. I'm not sure. Sometimes you'll find products that are made in one factory and get a bunch of different names put on them, but that one, I'm not sure. That one may just be one manufacturer. And Liz and I will be collaborating on that, so also look out for some cool other cassette players. Liz has a neat one she just ordered that she's looking forward to showing off. I can only imagine she's going to add some colorful LEDs to it, which will be cool. And I may pick up one of the GE, there's a General Electric GE sort of Walkman with speed control built in that's really popular, very available. There's Sony ones that are super nice but less available or more expensive, but you can, for $10, $15, $20 get some of these super popular GE ones and just look for one that works, or be prepared to swap out belts. I think that is everything I wanted to show you and bring up and get started today, so look forward to the follow-up on this in a couple of weeks, and I think that's going to do it for today. So again, thank you everyone for stopping by. That's going to do it. Thank you for Adafruit Industries. I'm John Park. This has been John Park's Workshop. Yes, sorry, Thin Man, no show on Tuesday next week, no show on Thursday for me. So there will not be a product pick of the week on Tuesday, and there will not be a workshop on Thursday. I will be out the full week. So thanks everyone for stopping by. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.